Welcome to the Ducks Unlimited podcast, the only podcast about all things waterfowl. From hunting insights to science-based discussions about ducks, geese, and issues affecting waterfowl and wetlands conservation in North America, we bring the resource to you. The DU Podcast with your host, Chris Jennings.
Once again, we have another special guest on the podcast. We have Ducks Unlimited President Doug Schoenrock joining us from his home in Alabama. Doug, welcome to the show.
Chris, thank you very much. Good to be here.
Yeah, we are excited to have you back on. You know, we had you on last time in September, and you kind of, provided a real insight into your introduction as the DU president. You provided our audience with some really cool insights about what the DU president does and is, and how your role and how you came into that role. But now that you've been in it, and we're rolling right along, we wanted to bring you on just kind of to provide an organizational update and just let people know what DU's doing, what you're doing, what you're seeing throughout the organization. So kind of a state of the organization from the DU president.
Chris, glad to. And thank you again for inviting me to be on the podcast. It's a great outreach tool for both DU members and non-DU members. And very exciting to be here. Yeah, a lot of water has gone under the bridge since we last spoke in September. Starting with our virtual convention. Unfortunately, we had to cancel our convention that was set for Orlando, and we went virtual. And we had a virtual auction and gala, and then our business session was actually placed and pre-recorded on the DU website. And I can tell you that the virtual auction was really fun. Watching the different comments and clicking over to different watch parties. And my wife, Linda, and I actually surprised a watch party in Iowa. And we had our dog Goose with us. And, it was so fun to show up at somebody's house without their expecting us. And just, rub elbows with great DU supporters and DU friends. And we were at the home of Tammy and Ed Kircher in Keokuk, Iowa. And what fun that was. And nationally, that was a very successful event. The virtual auction and gala was really successful for Ducks Unlimited. And we've had, I think over 10,000 views of our business session now on the website since it's been downloaded there, I believe on September 25th. So very excited about that. And just recently we completed last week our Into the Vault auction, which, David Schusler and a lot of our staff there in Memphis, we have a lot of stuff, obviously, from years and years and years of history with Ducks Unlimited, where we place things in event merchandise packages, et cetera. David had a wonderful idea, and that was, I think I'm going to go back and look into the vault of what all we have, and I bet you that there'd be a lot of interest for some of this old DU stuff on an auction. Well, by George, they did it. And very successful virtual Into the Vault auction. I believe that was culminated on Saturday night, which was a very exciting time. Raised, again, good money for the Ducks. But, there was original artwork. There were firearms that were 25 and 30 years old. Some really classic stuff. And congratulations to our whole event team who pulled this off and made it successful. But, speaking about events, once the economy started to reopen in September, late September, October, the event system for DU kicked back in. And I believe in the fourth quarter, we had about 1,000 events in the fourth quarter of this calendar year. And I want to say over 600 were live in-person events. Now, I didn't attend all 600 of them, but I sure got to several of them. And it was really good to be back in a hall filled with DU supporters and to see the fire in their eye and to see their hearts dedicated to such a great passion that we all so much love in wetland conservation. And most of these events were on the advent of duck season. And we were hearing stories of cold fronts in the Dakotas, and the ducks are leaving Canada, and very exciting times about the anticipation of duck season, just like it should be, like it's always been. So I'm honored to have been able to attend several in-person events. Now I'm still doing some virtual events, and be doing one this Thursday, in fact, in Colorado. But we have a great mix of virtual and in-person events leading right up to Christmas time. And most of America now is in duck season. And we live all year for this. We raise money to be able to improve habitat, and with the hope that we have birds over our decoys come season. And I've been on 3 or 4 duck hunts already this year, and I probably have 8 or 10 left to go by the end of January across 5 or 6 different states. And I can tell you that the ducks are coming. The ducks are here. I went with some buddies hunting just this past Saturday in Alabama, just a buddy hunt. And I like to call it a no pressure hunt. It's a hunt where we throw out our own decoys and we call ducks. And we had a great hunt. We lasted a couple hours. We ended up getting 9 mallards and a teal, all Drake mallards, and just a classic North Alabama duck hunt, which I was very excited to participate in, and thankful for the friends who invited me to go. And it's a testament to see the ducks over our decoys in Alabama this early in December that our conservation delivery is on track. We had some weather that pushed birds for us, but I know that last fiscal year, we set records in conservation delivery. And last conversations with our conservation team that I had last week, we're on track to set records again this year. And very excited about that because that's our mission. That's what we do. And that's why we raise money, is to put acres on the ground so that we can put more birds in the sky. I believe the DU model is working, and I'm very excited to be part of it. And I'm honored that I get to lead this great organization and meet so many fantastic volunteers and work with so many fantastic staff.
You kind of mentioned it, how, we had a rough spring and summer as far as, event go, and it was difficult. We transitioned into virtual, and I attended several of these virtual events, and but once the fall hit and we were able to get more events in person, and you mentioned it, that chatter through a Ducks Unlimited event as in the fall, you walk table to table and hear people talking about ducks, cold fronts in the Dakotas, and how many birds coming out of the prairies, and just that chatter. It's a good feeling, and it's good to hear the fact that you got to join in on several of those events and hear that chatter, and that's exciting stuff. You mentioned the virtual convention. That information is still available on ducks.org. People can go and check that out. And there's a lot of great presentations and speeches, even, from yourself and DU leadership and conservation. And as we kind of head into the winter, you're hearing this excitement. Did you get a feel for, the DU volunteers and supporters at these events that this fall seemed to have a little bit more significance, as far as following the kind of the lockdowns, and people were trying to stay away from each other throughout the spring and summer, and then into the fall? Do you feel like duck season gave everyone a sense of normalcy, I guess I should say? Did you kind of get that from some of the events that you attended?
Chris, I did. In the last 8 or 9 months, our country has been nothing traditional. And one tradition that has held true is the advent of duck season. And honestly, there's no better way to social distance. It felt good to cling to something that we hold so dear, to where we can get back with friends and relatives and acquaintances that we've shared duck blinds with in the past. And to be able to continue that tradition once again, unabated, and to experience it, it's like it's like turkey and dressing for Thanksgiving. It's like Chevrolet and Americana. It's duck season, and I saw that at the events in the anticipation, and I've seen it in the duck blind with fellow hunters who just are glad to be there. And it's funny, the blessings of a good migration almost seem to be secondary to the camaraderie of us back in the duck blind together. In a normal year, you always hear people say, well, they're not flying today, or they're not here yet, or whatever. What I've heard this year is that, man, it's so good to be back. It's so good to be together. And if we kill a few ducks, it's a great day. And that's the sentiment that I have. And And it's almost like it's all about going and not so much about killing. And, we all want to bring a limit of ducks. We all want to put them on the table. We all like to eat our ducks. But I tell you what, it is special to be able to go. And that is a tradition that I hope that we all cherish for a long time to come. And by George, if I have anything to do with it, we will. And I'm excited about it.
It's great to hear that you got a good shoot in there in Alabama. I will just warn you. You don't want to come on the podcast and tell people how good the hunting is there in North Alabama. I got some buddies that do hunt over there, and it's really improved over there. And that's, like you said, that's a testament to continental conservation work as well as some local areas there. But yeah, you don't want to give out the secrets that North Alabama is a hot spot for sure.
Well, it's getting better. Kind of funny, I'm probably one of the first presidents that doesn't hail from a quote duck state. So we're used to not having, a lot of birds over our decoys, but the passion still remains strong. And there's a lot of good public hunting in Alabama. The state works well on public management areas. What's really cool here in North Alabama now, we winter about 12,000 sandhill cranes. And I'll frequently take my wife and kids over and to the National Refuge here, Wheeler National Refuge, and we'll look at the cranes, and we'll see some whooping cranes. Which, if you haven't ever seen a whooping crane, go somewhere where you can, because that's a great bird, and there are not many of them left. What an amazing species to watch. When you see hoopers, you realize that not only does the wetland conservation work we do benefit waterfowlers who want to see ducks and geese over their decoys, but it benefits a lot of other species too. And that's important for all of us to remember.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the wide variety of species that benefit from DU's conservation work is, something that we try and highlight as often as possible. And that's good that you brought up the hoovers. They're a fantastic species, and really something that people go travel, all over the country just to get a glimpse of one. And you're probably really fortunate that you can just drive up to Wheeler. It's not too far from you, and get a chance to see one. That's fantastic. Yeah, you mentioned you're traveling a little bit. You've got some hunts planned. Ducks Unlimited has a wide berth of corporate partners. And you and I had talked offline a little bit about, a new cool program that you got into earlier this fall, and something that's kind of near and dear to you, especially with as much traveling as you do for hunting. The Ducks Unlimited Sportsman's Protection Plan. This kicked off in August and was really, one of those programs that was supposed to kick off in the event system, and the events, didn't happen as originally planned. But you mentioned that you're fairly familiar with this program, and kind of wanted to talk about this new corporate partner and share, what this Sportsman's Protection Plan is.
For sure, it's offered by a company called 3P Risk Strategies. When I first heard about it as a member benefit to Ducks Unlimited, first of all, I'm all for as many member benefits as we can generate through our corporate relations group. Very few of us can walk out of our back door and go hunting. And so it means many times we load the dog in the truck and we throw a couple shotguns and some waders and a lot of camo. And believe me, some of the camo that we have today cost more than those prom dresses that our kids wore, years ago. And it's camo, it's hunting clothes. It's neat to have a sportsman's protection plan that it's basically an insurance and a service product plan, and it covers you on travel. It covers you on equipment damage or theft or personal injury, and even veterinary care or identity theft. And I signed up for it immediately. Once I heard this was coming online and I saw some of the preliminary materials on it, I reached into our corporate relations group and said, look, I would like to lead this effort and be one of the first people to sign up on this thing, because for the benefits you get, it's not real expensive. And I've experienced theft before where I had decoys taken out of my boat, a sack of decoys when I was eating a chicken fried steak somewhere for lunch one day, and I walked out and my decoys weren't in the boat anymore. And, they just don't blow out. They had to get lifted out. And I've had a friend who lost a real nice Hoyt bow while on an archery hunt away from home and had to literally go to an archery shop and buy a new bow. And his homeowners didn't cover it. And you know what? My homeowners wouldn't have covered my decoy theft either. Well, this tool now, this member benefit covers you when you're on the road. You can get 24/7 global travel assistance. I think there's some legal services that you're eligible for as well, but it covers equipment and electronics and accident coverage. It just gives me a peace of mind that when I throw equipment in the truck and I take off somewhere, that should the unthinkable happen, I don't have to worry about, is my homeowners going to cover it? As most of us do, we all travel to pursue our passion. Whether you're going on a duck hunt or a camping trip or a hike, equipment that you have and protection that you need is there. To me, it is an absolute no-brainer. It's basically a bolt-on insurance product that is separate from your homeowners, that just protects you and your equipment and travel. It even helps you if you're abroad and need to have emergency travel assistance to get home for medical reasons or whatever. There's some assistance there as well. So I would encourage anybody to go to ducksplan.com and check it out.
It's a great program. And I think, one thing that it really jumps out to me with this plan is that, waterfowl hunting is so gear intensive. And, not only do you have that gear, that equipment coverage, you have accident coverage. We do a lot of things in a lot of places that, you can be injured or, there's certainly an element of danger to what we do as waterfowl hunters. And then also that includes your retriever. I've had issues with my retriever in the past, being injured. And so there's an optional pet coverage with this. And that's one thing that I point out. And, you mentioned that you had some decoys stolen. We could probably do, 10 hours of podcast with people that are just, hey, I had this stolen, or my truck broke down. I drove off a levee, there's things that, stories of what we used to, what was it? Misery Loves Company.
Yeah.
That, used to be the book that we all kind of look towards, but that's something. And I'm glad you brought that up as far as, it's just one of our many corporate partners, but, this sportsman protection plan really offers something that's unique. And like you said, it's a real member benefit for Ducks Unlimited.
Being a hunter, when you select a gun out of your gun safe to take duck hunting, there's a connection there. And I would be remiss if I didn't fess up here and say that I've been on duck hunts where I forgot my gun. Okay. I got so excited to go, got the boat in the water and my buddy's there, and all of a sudden, I forgot my gun. So you end up being a caller and a boat driver and a retriever. And, but I couldn't imagine losing a firearm that you're close to, that you have so many memories with, and that it may be handed down, but it's just special. And I think every waterfowler looks not only at their guns, but at their equipment as being special. And you spend a lot of time tuning and honing that equipment, whether it's how many layers to wear, what gloves you use, if you wear hearing protection, what kind of eye protection, what hat do I wear, what shells do I bring, do my waders leak, all that kind of stuff. And this insurance program, the Sportsman's Protection Plan, kind of takes that space out of your mind, and you're really not worried about it. And I tell you what, that's a big release. It's nice not to worry about it.
Before I let you go, I just wanted to, you mentioned that you kind of wanted to, provide a holiday message for
Sure.
volunteers, the backbone of the organization, also DU supporters, members, everyone involved. So I just kind of want to give you an opportunity to do that as well.
One thing that I've learned in the last 6 months of being president of Ducks Unlimited is we are one big family. The DU family is deep and wide. If you see that duck head on the back of a vehicle, or you see somebody wearing a Ducks Unlimited hat. In fact, our neighbor's having some chainsaw work done, and they saw my bumper sticker. They saw my license plate, and they saw a sticker on the back of the window of the truck, and I had a guy come knock on the door asking if I was a duck hunter. And my wife answered the door, and, I spent the next hour talking to a guy with a chainsaw in his hand. But we're family. Again, we're family. Didn't know this guy existed until yesterday. The passion of this young man for Ducks Unlimited and wetland conservation and duck hunting is immeasurable. And so I would like to just encourage all of our members to not forget your DU family during the holiday season. On top of that, spend Christmas with friends and your DU family and try to get outside. If your waterfowl season is closing, go for a walk. If your waterfowl season is open, try to go duck hunting or go to a refuge. But the bottom line is get outside and spend time with your family and enjoy this sacred time called Christmas, because it comes around once a year, and it is such a tradition for all of us to enjoy both our DU family and our own personal families and relish in the outdoor activities that we all love. And for me, it happens to be waterfowling and a little bit of deer hunting. I plan on getting plenty of that in within the next 20 to 30 days, and enough to last me for another year until season comes back around. So, but I want to wish all of our DU volunteers, all of our staff, and the great folks that support Ducks Unlimited a very Merry Christmas, and to encourage them to continue their support. The Ducks need you. The Ducks don't care about lockdowns, COVID, or any of that kind of crap. They just want to migrate south and migrate back north and do it again and again and again. And so Merry Christmas to all of my Ducks Unlimited friends, and thank you for your support.
I appreciate that, Doug, and I know everyone out there certainly appreciates it. And you know, I know all of us in this waterfowling lifestyle and community plan to always spend as much time outside. And again, I recommend that as well during Christmas. I know I plan to even try and get my kids on a few hunts this year, and they're young, but they like to go with me. So, you know, that's all part of the process and all part of the, you know, this time of year that we cherish. And then now we also have to look forward to 2021 and some more awesome conservation work that we're going to do. But no, I appreciate you joining me on the podcast today. And thanks a lot, Doug.
Chris, I really appreciate it. You have a great Christmas too.
You too. Merry Christmas. I'd like to thank my guest, Ducks Unlimited President Doug Schoenrock, for joining us today on the DU podcast and providing an update on the organization. I'd also like to thank our producer, Clay Baird, for putting the podcast together and doing a great job. And I'd like to thank you, the listener, for joining us on the DU podcast and supporting wetlands conservation.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the DU Podcast. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and visit www.ducks.org/DU Podcast for resources based on today's topics, as well as access to more episodes. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of Ducks Unlimited. Until next time, stay tuned to the Ducks.